Hello friends, James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com in the very sunny climes of Western Japan here in November 2017, and I don't need to tell you that things are not just crazy, they're insane. And they're not just insane, they're getting more insane by the day. Can you just think back to the last few months of crazy off-the-charts, top of the news headlines, stories that we've been inundated and flooded with over the last few months? All of this craziness swirling around with the car attacks, and then, Las Vegas, everyone's got to talk about Las Vegas. Oh, Vegas, what was that? Weinstein, look over there. And then Saudi Arabia? No, Saudi Arabia, the prince was in Vegas. It's getting so insane. Secret indictments and Mueller and Russia and all of this insanity swirling around and around and around. Now, I don't need to go through, as I'm sure you've already heard from many commentators, and they do a good job of explaining it, that these distractions are clearly distractions that are designed to get us chasing our own tail over and over and following the glittering, shiny light wherever they shine it, like a cat chasing a laser pointer. I don't need to go through that because you already know it. But here's the other side of that coin, which is that this in and of itself is a sign of our power. The fact that the so-called would-be inbred eugenics-obsessed elite are scared of you and what you think, and the fact that you are devoting more of your time and resources to looking outside the box, looking outside of the mainstream media control that they have had over you for, well, generations. You and your parents and grandparents were born in the mass media environment where a very few people with the control of the means of publication could control what you think and how you think and the things that you think about. And that's important. That's why it's now distraction after distraction after distraction. Unbelievable. Can you believe this? Can you believe that? Look over here. Look over there. Just don't have time to stop and think about what it is you want to stop and think about. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can tell this, but here's an interesting one that popped up very recently, just in the last few days. The journal Science published a study about media activation of the population and national news setting of the national conversation. I forget the real title of the article. It'll be on the screen, and I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go and read it. But this interesting little article talked about the idea that we are in an age where even small, as they put it, non-mainstream media sources have the power to set the national news conversation. And they demonstrated this. They did this whole study where they got a bunch of outlets to publish on certain topics during certain slow news weeks, and they registered social media conversations about this. And they determined that there was a 62% or so, somewhere thereabouts, increase in over control group, random chatter in specific topics when they were talked about, even by a group of 3 or 4 small non-mainstream news sources. What this means is that we are having an effect in changing the national news conversation. This is why they're throwing out red meat after red meat after red meat, to get us chasing tails and making sure that we don't stop to use this power to set the news media's agenda. Because that is, I think, what the powers that shouldn't be are truly afraid of. The fact that they are losing control in setting that agenda. That is the real control over people's minds that they've held for generations, as I say. So, there's a couple of corollaries that we can take out of this information. One of which is that you are not weak. You are not powerless. You do have power. You can change people's minds, change people's understanding, change people's opinions, change the way people understand the world around them. That is power. You are not powerless and weak. However much Madison Avenue and Wall Street and Washington and whoever else want to tell you every single day that you are weak, powerless, small, puny, the only way you can possibly gain any power is by banding together and voting for a donkey or an elephant, and that's the only thing that you can do in your life. That is total BS, and we are exposing that every single day. And I speak from experience on this because I am now getting several emails a week from people who are saying, I've never thought about this stuff. I always dismissed crazy conspiracy theories, but now I'm starting to look into it, and your website has changed my life. I'm getting this several times a week, and I'm a relatively small part of this alternative media revolution that's taking place. Can you imagine the overall societal effect that this is having? It is huge. So here's another corollary of this. You do have a part to play in this. You are not an active, passive bystander just watching the world around you. You are an active participant in creating the world you and your children and their children are going to live in. That's a pretty big responsibility, but together, I really do think we can do this. We can set an agenda that isn't about chasing tails and isn't about following the latest distraction. It's about setting our own agenda and creating the solutions, the alternative structures that will be the thing that sees us through to the other side of whatever craziness they're going to throw at us. So, on that note, there are many ways that you can participate in this. And, in fact, as little a thing, seemingly a little and insignificant, as just talking about these issues with other people does have an effect. It does change the national conversation. It does change people's minds. And that's a power that is vastly underutilized as of yet to actually change the types of things people are talking about, rather than following the political distraction issues. And the other thing you can do, of course, is to help support the non-mainstream online alternative media outlets that are changing that conversation, not just nationally, but internationally, as I sit here in Western Japan. So, of course, you can, and I hope you will, support the Corbett Report in my endeavor to continue changing people's minds and changing people's lives. And you can do so for as little as $1 a month to become a member of the Corbett Report website. You will get access to the weekly subscriber newsletter, and you can participate in the open source investigations that, again, are having a real effect. We are changing the world, and it's one hell of a ride. I hope you'll join me for it. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.